Hello, everyone. Chair Cole, yeah. My least favorite meeting of the year, the annual meeting of the Board of Education for School District number 73. My name's Harold Cullen, the Secretary Treasurer. So for the annual meeting, I get to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to acknowledge the unceded territory of the Squamish people, specifically the territory of the Tecumleps and the Squamish people, and just appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this work, this important work on these lands. Mike and I get to visit these lands on a regular basis, and it's always a pleasure coming here and being able to do this great work. So appreciate the opportunity to do this here. As I had mentioned, again, my name is Harold Cull. So I'll be able to start the meeting with the chair election. And then after that point, once the chair is elected, I'll be able to turn it over to them to run through the rest of the trustee elections and then get on to the regular business of the board's tonight's meeting that we already have an agenda for. So maybe without any further ado, we'll do the election of the board chairperson. I'd like to call for the first time any nominations for the position of board chairperson of the Kamloops Thompson Board of Education. Kathleen? Heather, do you accept that a nomination? Thank you. I'd like to call for the second time all nominations for the position of chairperson. I'd also like to do it for the third. I threw one out the window. Yeah. Is that better? Perfect. Okay. I'd like to call for the third and final call for nominations for the position of board chairperson for the Kamloops Thompson Board of Education. Seeing none, I'd like to acclaim Heather Grieve as chairperson for the Board of Education for School District number 73. And I will trade positions.
Thank you very much, Secretary Treasurer Call. We will move on with the continuing. Oh, thank you, Meyer. You can, thank you. And thank you very much. Before actually I move on to the rest of the elections, I will just say that I feel incredibly privileged to have had an opportunity to work alongside the trustees who are on this Board of Education. I also feel incredibly privileged to continue to represent, but know that we've been through some very, we've had some really positive times and we've had some very challenging times, most notably even over the weekend with one of our elementary schools at Westmount, and we continue, I think, to show up to the table, and I'm very honored to be here. So thank you again. We'll move on with the rest of the annual elections. And so I am going to make a call for nominations for the position of vice chairperson for the Board of Education. Yes, Trustee Karpuk. Thank you very much. Trustee Kershaw, do you accept the nomination?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will make a second call for nominations for the position of vice chairperson. And I will make a third call for nominations for the position of vice chairperson. All right, I will congratulate Vice Chairperson Kershaw, who has been acclaimed. Thank you very much. Moving on, we've got the election for the position of Provincial Council Representative for the Board of Education. I will look for a call for nominations for the Provincial Council member. I will go first to Vice Chair Kershaw.
I'll nominate Trustee Kathleen Karpuk, please.
Thank you very much. Trustee Karpuk, do you accept the nomination?
I do, and thank you to my nominator.
Thank you very much. I'll make a second call for nominations for the position of Representative for Provincial Council. All right, I'll make a third call for nominations for the Trustee Representative for Provincial Council. All right, congratulations, Trustee Karpuk. Trustees, I'm looking for a nomination for the Trustee Representative for the Board of Education to the Public School Employers Association. Yes, Trustee Sim.
I'd like to nominate trustee Cole Hickson.
Thank you very much. Trustee Hickson, do you accept the nomination? Thank you. Trustees, I will look for any second call for nominations for the Public School Employers Association representative. All right, and I will make a third call for nominations. All right. Thank you very much, Trustee Hickson. Congratulations. So that concludes our annual meeting to look at our representation from the Board of Education. So thank you very much. Trustees, we'll move into the business of the regular public board meeting, which brings us to item 2.1, which is the adoption of the regular public meeting minutes from September the 22nd, 2025. Do I have a mover? Yes, Trustee Kang, thank you. And do I have a seconder? Thank you very much, Trustee Karpak. Any discussion on the motion on the table to adopt the minutes? All right, seeing no discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much. Moving on to item next. I'm looking for, sorry, I apologize. Oh, sorry. I'm making a notice, actually. I'm not looking for a motion at this point, but at the in-camera board meeting on September the 22nd, the board reviewed and discussed reports about land, labor, legal, and pending issues. So just covering that off in terms of our meeting. Trustees, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as circulated in this evening's board package. Moved by Trustee Karpak, seconded by Trustee Kang. Is there anything that trustees wanted lifted from the consent agenda this evening? All right, seeing nothing, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much. Trustees, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as circulated for this evening. Moved by Trustee Hickson, seconded by Vice Chair Kershaw. Yeah, do I have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Can we add in under 9.2 credit card payments or school cash online report?
Yes, absolutely. Are there any other additions or deletions? Yes, Trustee Karpak. Sorry, regional high school sports events? Yeah, okay. I will put that under 13. Is that right? Yes. So Trustee Karpak, I've got you under 13. Any other additions or deletions to this agenda? All right, I will call the question on the amended agenda. All those in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much. Moving on to item next, we were at this evening's education topic. Superintendent McKay, can I turn it over to you?
We don't have, I thought,
My goodness, it's
What-
still on the agenda.
what have I missed here?
I don't know. It was habit.
I was looking plaintively out at the assistant superintendents. Who's,
No, everyone's like, what is happening? Well, you know what? That is on me. But let the minutes reflect that there is no education topic and that the chair has made a gaffe already.
no, that's fine. We typically will have education topics and we certainly will be bringing some items forward from board and services and from the education committee meetings, but not tonight.
Y-
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I did find it weird that there was nothing listed under it, but I just kind of moved right past that in my head. We have no public inquiries, petitions, or written presentations this evening. We have nothing from our parent advisory groups or district parent advisory groups. Now we have some substance. We're moving on to item next, reports from Superintendent of Schools, Superintendent McKay. Back to you.
I'm just a bit shaken, that's all.
You know, you're welcome. Sorry.
Thank you. The student enrollment update, we provided the board with some information and happy for the assistant superintendents to speak to that as we have gone through our September 30th enrollment count and so on. So over to Assistant Superintendents Riley and Keeneline.
Thank you so much, Superintendent McKay. Through you, Chair Grieve, to the board, we have a 25-26 September 17 enrollment update presentation up on the screen. We can probably head to the next one if you want. Whoever's doing that action. Beautiful. Okay, thank you. It's just magically happening behind me. It's wonderful. So I'll start with elementary, and these numbers here are September 2025 finalized enrollment, which is that middle column, I guess, at 9,294. That is a change of just over like 49 FTE, so really full-time equivalent, but also just head count for elementary, above what we projected in the spring. So after we do kindergarten registration, we use some of our Beargar information and we come up with a number that we think is going to be there. And as you can see, we were 49 over that number. Cool, which is Kamloops Open Online Learning, which is a provincial online school. It's a little bit of a different format for budgeting there. It's still kind of developing how we are going to be really successful for our budget, but we did a pretty decent job here last spring, guessing at about 351 based on what we've seen in previous enrollments. And we finalized at 360. So again, a small increase of 9 over our projected budgets for elementary and cool.
And for secondary, as you can see on the screen, essentially the September 30th secondary full-time equivalent enrollment came in near to the budget projection, 6251, which is 7 FTE below the budget projection that was offered.
And then the bottom line there, inclusive education, those are students who have a ministry designation, basically in all levels. Level 1 are low incident students. Level 2 is also low incidence. And then level 3 are high incidence students. So overall, if you roll all those levels together, we are slightly above what we had budgeted our numbers to be. And I think we go to the next slide, please. So these numbers here are a little different. This is really our enrollment at September over time compared to last year. So as you can see, for elementary and cool, we're down what we were last year. So these are real-time numbers from last year. 35 for elementary and cool is down 37, which means our kind of story that we were growing has pretty much come to an end, and we're seeing definitely a decrease across the board.
Yes, and the same can be said for secondary enrollment, as you can see on the screen. Essentially, a reduction of 11 full-time equivalents from September 2024 to September 2025.
And then the one difference would be at the bottom there, as trustees can see, where students with complex needs, we are 55 students above where we were last year. So as much as the numbers, the real numbers for students are declining, the inverse is true for students with complex needs, where we're getting more and more students with complexity that we are supporting. And so just a quick summary, you can see, trustees, as we stated earlier, enrollment growth really has stopped. In fact, enrollment decline is what we have encountered in September of this year, with the exception of students with complexities. Those students are increasing at a rate that is actually quite significant in terms of our district. And we're happy to answer any questions that trustees may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assistant Superintendents Riley and Keeneline. Trustees, do you have any questions on this agenda item? Yes, Trustee Sim.
2 questions. Thank you very much. Is the decline in SD 73 similar to what is? So there have been classes to the rationale for why decline, especially when it's moving up, but was and it's not. It's working now.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Sim. Difficult question to answer without having knowledge at the provincial level as of yet. Those numbers haven't been shared out to districts provincially, so hard to compare what we're seeing in this September to what the province is seeing. Definitely something for us to look into once those numbers are actually public and we can see where we match up compared to the province.
And so just on that, is there thoughts as to, I mean, we have been projecting that there would be a decline, but has there been any further information about where that decline is? Any rationale? We've talked in the past that it often had been tied to some of the resource projects within the valley like TMX. Is there anything else that's coming to light?
I think one of the areas that we are seeing a potential decline is in the area of TRU international students coming in with families. We still are seeing a decent enrollment, but we have noticed some of the schools that really support and serve those families haven't seen as much enrollment as we have seen in the past. So that's one of our areas. I don't know what else I can speculate on necessarily without having data, but I don't know if Rick knows.
No, not really. I mean, we haven't had a lot of conversations with the principals as to movement in and out of the schools. And as you saw, and especially at secondary in terms of the FTE numbers, there's not a lot of variation from the previous year, so there hasn't been a ton of movement in that regard. I think we did see some reductions around people moving out of the resource sector because of completed projects, but again, looking at what's on the screen, it hasn't had that full impact yet.
And I think in fairness to our kindergarten number this year, in terms of, real birth rates over the last 5 years is a little bit lower, and we forecast that to be continuing right now. So that's another variable that's playing into this.
And if I may for supplemental with the 55 numbers that were mentioned there, are those 55 that have been registered students within our district but now have designation, or is it new? Just help me translate what that number means.
Looking back at Assistant Superintendent Mattis, who probably could answer this question much better. I think what we're seeing is probably a combination of both. We are very aware that students have come into our system that we did not know prior to this year that have complexities that we're supporting. And we're also aware of some students that were in our system that, have gone through the process of getting a designation through an assessment. So I think there's a bit of both.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Karpuk.
Two questions and they're somewhat linked. One is, do we see a trend happening with our students with complex needs? Are we seeing increased numbers year over year over year? Is this something that's occurring more often that we need to do some planning around? And secondly, wondering if, because we are a regional hub, if we're having higher numbers of those students compared to our surrounding districts. And is that also something that's feeding into our challenges with being able to provide those supports?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Trustee Karpuk. I'll start and if Assistant Superintendent Mattis wants to come in and stop me from making mistakes, that would be amazing. But we were fortunate to have district principal of inclusive ed, Deanna Brady, share with our LDP group last week some inclusive ed information. And one of them is that our students who are G designation, so that's an autism disorder designation, those numbers have gone up 47% in 5 years. So we are seeing a very significant increase in students with complexities. Now, again, that's just students with ASD, but that's also my understanding students who maybe have fetal alcohol spectrum disorder as well. So there are some pieces there for sure that are growing. And then the second part of the question, I can't remember. Sorry, got caught off guard.
I was just wondering how our percentage of students with complex needs compares with other districts around us and whether or not those students are coming into our district if families are actively seeking an area that may be able to provide more support.
Yeah, I don't have a tremendous answer in terms of what that looks like for districts surrounding us directly. I do know that SD23 in Kelowna also sees an increase in students, particularly with ASD, because of the services they provide. I do think that story is somewhat similar in Kamloops Thompson. We do have services here that outlying regions do not have. So parents coming in to, access those services is something that I think we are experiencing.
Are there any other questions from trustees on this agenda item that's been presented for information purposes? Yes, please.
I appreciate the question and add it to my list of topics for board and services because I think that would be an excellent overview of the numbers, the trends, the populations, and the services we're providing. So our list of board in service topics is growing, but that will be an excellent one. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Superintendent McKay, does that conclude this agenda item?
It does. Thank you both for the report and the clarity around the fact that we are declining in enrollment, but we are up over what we thought we were going to be last year. And that's sometimes hard to square that circle, but that's where we are.
No, you're good. Moving on to item next, out of province field trip, 8.2.
Yes, there's an out-of-province field trip that requires attention in a timely manner. It did not meet the AP around early notice, but we recognize that this is a group that was traveling to the Kootenays and taking a little side trip into Alberta, which we needed to consider an out-of-province field trip, obviously. So, Assistant Superintendent, you have some background.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent McKay, and Chair Grieve, through you to the board. Yes, apologies for not meeting the 3-month window. However, the International Student Program is requesting board approval for an out-of-province field trip for 30 students and 3 adult chaperones to travel to Radium, Lake Louise, and Banff from November 14th to 17th. This is a regularly occurring international student program field trip, which contributes to students' knowledge of the history and geography of British Columbia's and Alberta's Rocky Mountains area. It's got a direct curricular connection to the board authorized course language acquisition through community and physical activity and focuses on nature studies and outdoor education. So the plans for the trip continue to be finalized and are actually very close to being finalized. And as that occurs, I'll work with District Principal Brewer to ensure the itinerary and parent information are developed according to AP 260 field trips. So yes, this memo is provided for the board's recommendation.
Thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Keeneline. Trustees, do you have any questions on this agenda item that has been presented with a recommended motion attached as well? Any questions? Yes.
As a host parent for a number of Rotary Exchange students, we've tried to make the trip through the Rockies with as many of our students as we can. And I know that for many of them, it's had a tremendous impact and they just are so excited and so grateful just to be able to go to that. And that it's definitely very much a bucket list item for a lot of those kids, and being able to see the wildlife that you can see. I thought our last student was actually going to levitate out of our vehicle when she saw a bear. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful trip for those students.
Thank you, Trustee Karpuk. Trustees, there is a motion recommended that the Board of Education of School District number 73, the Kamloops Thompson, approves 30 students in the International Student Program to travel to the Kootenays and Lake Louise, Alberta from November 14th to 17th, 2025. Do I have a mover? Moved by Trustee Kang, seconded by Trustee McKelvey. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing no discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item next, 8.3 Superintendent's update.
Thank you. Very briefly, I want to express my gratitude, and I know on behalf of the board, the gratitude to Kamloops Fire Service for their response to the Westmount Elementary fire. It was, the alarm went in the middle of the night and it was extinguished in rapid time. It was a significant fire, but they stepped up and prevented what would have been far more significant damage. So to our partners in Kamloops Fire, thank you so much. And I'm sure the board will reach out and formally acknowledge and thank them for that, for their efforts. Around Westmount Elementary, plans continue to be finalized. School for those students, classes will resume on Wednesday. They will resume in 3 other sites. The communication has gone out to parents and to staff, so they are being told directly including details around transportation. I want to acknowledge the work of the principal and senior staff who gathered together virtually on Sunday, some in person, some virtually, and on Monday all the way through to develop something that's going to work as well as possible. As we recognize there are no perfect solutions to this, but we believe we're landing in a place that will be the best possible outcome and opportunity for kids and to be as to diminish the amount of dislocation that everyone will be feeling around this. So there may be questions from trustees around this. I know the board has received some communications from me as we went through the decision-making processes, but it's at your pleasure if you have any questions.
Trustees, do you have any questions for Superintendent McKay? Yes, Trustee Sim.
Thanks very much. First of all, I don't think it can be understated about what a huge job that was for staff. Like you've said, it was good and you've said it in a very steady way, but it was actually gigantic. And I know that everybody around here just says thank you to be able to be that nimble and, you know, lean in so hard. I mean, I just can't even imagine that it was done so quickly. So just huge gratitude on that front. I missed maybe part of what you were saying about, is there an anticipation of how long the students would be moved into other schools?
Thank you for that question and thank you for the comments. And I know I will pass that on, and Assistant Superintendent Riley, who's our point person on this, will pass that on both to the district team and to the school staff and its principal and the clerical person, head secretary, who is in the middle of a very complex action dynamic that's happening right now. To the question around how long, we don't know. We do know that our Director of Operations is working with the folks who come in and do the assessment. That's everything from air quality to the impact on the physical materials, whether it's the drywall or the ceiling tiles or the fabric around the school or the materials, computers and everything else. Once that is determined, we'll have a better idea of the degree to which mitigation is required. People might look and say, gee, it was a fire that was contained to the library. There are people in this room who have real experience with fires that may have been contained to one place, but the impact and the smoke damage and the water and all of the other things go far and wide, and it can be much longer. So we don't want to be alarmist. We're going to move as fast as we can. We've got school protection from the provincial government on the case as far as our insurer, and we'll get it done as quickly as we can, but there are no shortcuts. And when the safety and health people say this is not ready yet, we will gear down, not with our efforts, but with any anticipation of timelines. So stay tuned. We should know more within the next week or so once the assessments have come through. Big thing is kids will be in school, in their new schools, 3 schools that will be welcoming them. And we want to shout out to those administration staff and communities who are welcoming these kids starting on Wednesday until we're able to reopen the doors and say, welcome back to Westmount. Thank you.
Supplemental, Trustee Tim?
And the supplemental is who's handling the point for what I can only imagine would be a number of parent inquiries? That must take up a lot of time as well. And what's this going to look like, from the transportation piece to a number of other questions that might stem from any change with an academic path?
Well, the specialists, to pick transportation, our transportation manager, director has put together a comprehensive plan that's been communicated to parents by the principal this evening, I believe. Not yet. Tomorrow morning. That's right. What day is it? Tomorrow morning, that'll be communicated. And there will be, we will be dealing with some calls. We had a wonderful meeting with the PAC president from the school today and really appreciated her support and her perspectives. So there's a team that is working in a very coordinated fashion, heading in the same direction, always recognizing that this is not about finding the perfect silver bullet that everyone says, yippee, how did you manage to do 10,000 things that lined up together? We won't be able to align them all. We're going to mitigate the impact as much as possible. And we rely greatly on the school principal. All the research in education says that the high degree of trust in school principals. We reminded him of that today, and he is happy to carry that burden or that honor in reaching out to his community and supporting their needs.
And Board Chair, I'm so sorry, just one more on the communication
Stop
piece,
it,
if I
yeah.
may. And are the three welcoming schools, are they also being provided with communications so that those families know what to expect with the addition of new students?
I appreciate the question because it reminds me that our communications person, Chelsea, has done a great job of coordinating and finding the right words to go on school websites, on the district website, communication to the other principals. So all of those key messages are rolling out, as well as some media. We did a media briefing this afternoon at 4 p.m. We'll have a typical briefing the day after a board meeting tomorrow at noon, I think, 12:30, some such time. And so, yeah, the welcoming schools have been very welcoming, and we know that they're being leaned on. They've got, it's like when guests come, you know,
Yep.
they're wonderful to welcome, and they'll be around for a while, so everyone will find a way to navigate all of that. And thanks to HR, we're making sure there's some additional supports in place around some TTOC time as needed and some CEA time as needed, especially in the short term until things get rolling and smooth and the new normal becomes sort of normal for some time.
Thank you very much for all of that.
Thank you. Trustee Karpuk.
I just wanted to express my appreciation for how you've managed to locate all of the students in the classes from Westmount within a very similar close geographic area, because I know that for parents who have siblings in a multitude of different classes, potentially having kids in two different buildings, or depending on the number of kids, three, can be a logistical nightmare. And I know by having them in that very close grouping, that will somewhat mitigate that challenge for parents, because those schools are literally only a couple of minutes away from each other, and makes it a lot easier for that whole navigation of picking up kids and coordinating schedules a little bit easier. Not ideal, but easier.
Thank you, Trustee Karpuk. Trustee Kang.
I just respond to that.
Yes, absolutely.
When we, one of the requests we heard was please don't split up groups. And in a perfect world, we would have an empty school that was ready to go and we could just deliver all the kids and staff into that school. That doesn't happen except in the movies or at Parkcrest a few years ago. Doesn't happen anymore very often. What is good though, is that the cohorts by age and grade are being located in the same place. So there may be an older sibling somewhere else, but your best friend in grade 2 is going to be in the same building. And we've got K Bingham with K to 3. This is my test, see if my handwriting and understanding is good. K Bingham will be receiving the K to 3 kids. Parkcrest is receiving the 4 a multi-age class, a 4, 5, and a 5. And George Hilliard is receiving a 5, 6, multi-age of 6, and 2 6 7s, multi-age. So the cohort groups will be together. Siblings, as you say, it's a blessing if they're relatively close, just for parent convenience. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kang.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Grief. Just a super quick question about public safety and public interest with the weeks moving forward. Like, how is the site going to be secured 24/7, or is someone going to be on site?
We do have, there is and was security on site certainly up to the point where the police and the fire service had completed their investigation. There's security on site. Yeah, so we've got a security company on site, and where the fire opened up into the school, that's being temporarily sealed up and will be addressed within the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from trustees around this agenda item? All right, I'm not seeing any other questions. Superintendent McKay, just before I move on to reports from Secretary Treasurer, I just wanted to echo other trustees' comments around our gratitude from the board to district staff, not only to Assistant Superintendent Riley, but also Principal Stiles and the staff who have worked so diligently to come up with a plan in such short order. I know that we had a conversation just when we did our media interviews, just even around finding that balance between communication, including people in updating on plans, but also being able to make swift decisions when you've got custodial care and other things that need to take place to not be even more disruptive of families and things like that as well. And so just gratitude and gratitude to obviously Counts Fire and Rescue and the RCMP and the community as well. So we will obviously be getting updates. And again, thank you very much for all of your leadership. Does that conclude your agenda items for this evening?
I could tell you there are two other items on the list, but they can wait.
Okay, excellent. Moving on to item next, reports from Secretary Treasurer. Secretary Treasurer Call, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Heather. So 9.1 is the Sahali Park land disposal. So this should look familiar to trustees. The board passed a motion back in 2024 to dispose of 3 properties. Earlier this school year, the board passed the bylaw for Park Crest Park as well as Little Fort. And now we're coming to the board with a request to consider passing the bylaw for the Sahali Park land disposal. So the details are included on page 16, a memo that Art put together for us to provide some of the details. Then as we turn the page on page 18, the actual bylaw itself for the board's consideration. And then the last piece of the puzzle that we needed before we could bring it to the board table was the ministry approval that was received on September 8th. That is on page 19, 20, and 21 of the board package. So similar to the previous disposals this year, asking the board to consider having all 3 readings of the bylaw past this board meeting. In order to do that, we need an initial motion that we've got for the board's consideration, allowing for all 3 readings to be done. That needs to be passed unanimously. And if that is done, then the board can do all 3 readings at the same time. And I think we've confirmed in the past that because the bylaw has been provided in the board package, the chair does not have to read the entire bylaw. Much to her dismay, I'm sure.
Heroes don't always have to wear capes. Secretary Treasurer Call, thank you. I will look to trustees to see whether or not anyone wants to put forward the motion that the Board of Education of School District Number 73, Kamloops Thompson, allow all 3 readings of the disposal of real property bylaw number 2025-03 at its meeting of October the 27th, 2025. Do I have a mover? Moved by Trustee O'Fee, seconded by Vice Chair Kershaw. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing no discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Seeing none opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. And so given that, do I need another motion here?
Yes.
Secretary Treasurer Call? Yes.
So this is the actual factual motion.
So this is the actual factual motion? Okay. I will be looking again for a motion that the Board of Education of School District Number 73, Kamloops Thompson, give the first, second, and third readings of the disposal of real property bylaw number 2025-03. Moved by Trustee McKelvey, seconded by Trustee Karpuk. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much. Does that conclude that agenda item for you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Excellent. Moving on to item next. This was the additional item 9.2, school cash online.
Great, thanks, Heather. Thought it would be an important conversation to have. I know there's a number of questions that are being raised by parents within the district around the school cash online fees that have been starting to be charged to parents. Trustees may remember that through the annual budget bylaw process last spring, the decision was made to have those transaction fees that are charged directly from School Cash Online to be paid by the parents. That was a budget decision as we were trying to address the shortfall in last year's budget process to the tune of about $100,000. The issue now it has been raised with the district is, whether if we're in compliance with the payment card operator regulations. So we were unsure as we looked through the process in the springtime and the legal advice that we received that we were in compliance from a legal perspective. The question was then raised around the agreement that we signed with School Cash Online or KEV Group. That was the process that was brought in place a number of years ago in multiple districts, including ours, around the convenience for parents and families and caregivers to be able to pay their school fees online as opposed to bringing in cash or checks to the school. So as part of that process, it's been raised to our attention that we are need to be in compliance with that payment card operator regulations, which limits the amount of service charges on credit card payments at 2.5%. And trustees may remember that the agreement that we have with School Cash Online is a 4% charge. So Robbie Talon and I will be having a meeting with School Cash Online to ask them to be able to adjust the payment rate that is charged to the parents to that 2.5%. And the conversation will then extend to the agreement that we signed with the 4%. But that be something that the district will be able to discuss directly with School Cash Online. But what we're trying to do in short term is be able to correct the rate that's being charged. So we are in compliance. And then we'll go through the process of any fees that we've collected from this school, the beginning of the school year, effective July 1st, to be able to start refunding parents that difference between the 4% that has been charged and the 2.5% that is allowable under the payment card operator requirements. So just thought it would be good to be able to communicate that out. We have had a couple of emails that I will follow up with tomorrow to provide similar information to those people that have raised it. I know Deepak had some questions as well, so we'll be able to respond and appreciate the information and the request that was provided. So thought it was just a good opportunity to provide that to the board and see if there's any questions that we could try and answer at this time.
Thank you so much, Secretary Treasurer Cole. Trustees, do you have any questions about this agenda item that's been presented for information purposes? Trustee Sim.
I think just also to get some confirmation on how that'll be communicated out to schools more broadly as well. I think it's been something that a lot of parents have noticed and just a bit unsure about, and how to once the work has been done is how to follow up. And I think also any resolution is if there was some disparity, would there be discussion about having those amounts refunded or how that all works?
Good enough. Looks like it's worked. Hopefully this works. So great question, Shelley. Thank you for that. So we'll be following up once we do have that confirmation from Cash Online that that correction can be made and we have an understanding of those timelines. We'll be able to follow up through individual schools and the clerical staff to provide that information directly to parents and caregivers along with the timeline. So I just want to be able to have that conversation first to be able to understand when we can expect that, but obviously something that we'll be able to communicate directly to families with some more specific timelines and when they can expect that refund. But step one is definitely correct that amount to make sure that we get in compliance with the 2.5% that we're allowed to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from trustees? I just have one, Secretary Treasurer Cole, if that's okay. And it was just around whether or not, clarification around whether or not there's an option for people to not pay through School Cash Online.
Yes, there is. There it continues. So the opportunity, if families and caregivers want to bring in cash and checks, that opportunity still exists to the school if they prefer that payment option. So that has always been there as an option for families to consider.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I think I do sort of wonder sometimes when we look at the convenience charges and things like that, that people maybe aren't aware that there is an option for payment. So thank you for that clarification. Any other questions on this agenda item? All right, seeing none, does that conclude your agenda items for this evening? Excellent. Thank you so much. Moving on to item next, brings us to our new business. And trustees, if you look on page 25 of your package, you will see a list of the schedule of select and other committee meetings. It should be important to note that this list is now, there's a few committees that were standing committees over the last couple of years that are no longer on this list because they've now become part of either operations or education meetings. So we're not seeing things like the HR committee, finance and planning and things like that. And so this was the previous list of trustees that were assigned to these committees as well. I know looking at this, I'm wondering whether or not there is any desire to continue on with the assignments as they are listed. Yes, Vice Chair Kershaw.
Yeah, I was just going to note that I've been on the Legacy Committee actually since its inception. So I would happily give up my seat if there is someone that wants to take that. It's kind of an interesting committee. You get to see what schools are really trying to work towards. So.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Kershaw. I don't know, when I looked at this list, I was wondering actually, and I sort of been feeling the same. I know that I have a lot of touch points on the legacy, a lot of touch points in committees, and legacy is another one that it meets twice a year, but whether or not there are trustees that are interested in this. And I see that Trustee Kang is not. Would you be interested in? Yeah, amazing. Okay, excellent. So Trustee Kang will move into the legacy grant committee meeting. I will remove Vice Chair Kershaw. I don't know if there is another trustee who's interested in being a part of legacy grant committee, whether they want to volunteer, and if not, I can let my name stand for that. Yes, Trustee Hickson.
Just have a more broad question around this. Would I be able to answer?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
I remember in our first year, we had an industry committee, and I'm wondering if that still exists. Moreover, I was checking on an update. Are we doing a communications advocacy committee? Is that still coming down the pipeline? So I don't know if the first question could be asked to Chair Grieve, the second to Superintendent McKay.
So sorry, and sorry, Trustee Hickson. So I said there were a few committees that are no longer listed here because they've been absorbed by either operations or education. So that's why you're not seeing that one anymore. I would, in terms of looking at new committees that would be coming down the pipe, those would actually be also discussions that would be had in either the operations or education committee. So we wouldn't see that coming up as a new additional committee to sit on. Awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right, if there's no other trustees that want to be a part of Legacy Grant, are we okay with, and I'm just going to look for kind of a will of this group before we move towards a motion. Are people okay with the assignments as they have them right now in terms of trustee assignments? And I'm wondering, Trustee Hickson, whether you would be willing to be the alternate for the QP liaison meeting just because you're not listed here.
Happily.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing a lot of, yes, Trustee Sim.
Thanks. And again, maybe I've missed it. I just wondered, so page 24. So
Yes.
we've got a new education committee and operations committee. I don't know if that's been fully fleshed out as a rationale of why the change, or maybe I missed that.
Yeah, so we had it presented to the board, I believe it was two board meetings ago, where it was presented the rationale from operations, and we entertained a motion and then voted on that motion to have the operations and education committee.
No, that part of the series I
sorry.
caught.
I
But I
apologize.
think it is quite a shift from the way that we have traditionally run as a board. And so just to take this opportunity to just maybe explain to anybody who might be listening online, like why this change and some of the efficiencies that it's brought about, the fact that a lot of the committees have been brought under these two umbrellas, and again, to streamline. But you know, it is a very different approach to be having board meetings just maybe once a month and moving into that committee structure. I don't know if anybody wanted to kind of address that as we help transition our community to understanding this.
Thank you, Trustee Sim. Superintendent McKay, I will look to you.
Thank you. And Harold, certainly jump in as well as you see fit. Harold and I brought to the board at a previous meeting the potential to establish a different rhythm and to establish the locus for where the work would be done. And the work of the board is often done in committee. and it allows for the testing and a robust sort of pressure testing of any of the recommendations or the issues that need to be attended to or addressed. And when it is ready to go forward to the board for approval, the board certainly gets to ask questions as you have tonight with some motions, but many of those motions were compiled and constructed as a result of the committee work. So our belief is, and I think the board was supportive of that, let's get the committees to do the legwork and the groundwork with the deep support of staff. And when something comes to the board table, and it can be once a month, the board has some degree of satisfaction that this has all been tried and tumbled and rinsed and resorted. So it's in a place where it's ready. If it isn't ready at the committee level, it goes through another cycle of consideration. And we get to a place where the board meeting is certainly not a rubber stamping, but the board has confidence because there are trustees sitting on those committees that the work has been done. They have confidence that the staff is fulfilling its obligations operationally inside the framework that the board sets through its strategic plan and through its values and its mandate. So that's the purpose. And the question then is, if we are going to have those robust committees where there's a fair bit of work and a fair bit of behind the scenes work by staff to get ready, is it appropriate to go to one board meeting a month where the fruits of that labor can be presented and endorsed? I will say that in my experience, there are lots of boards. There are boards that meet twice a month. There are lots of boards that do meet once a month. I also really want to respectfully recognize the fact that this is a very distributed school district. It's how many kilometers from the south end to the north end? A lot. And I know that we can effectively have education and operations committees online. I think it's important whenever possible that board meetings are a place where the board is able to gather in person and to have people coming, especially through the winter months, coming down twice a month, or plus, because of all the other things that are happening, would be a stretch. Now, I may have missed a couple of things, but is that a fair canvas?
I think it's a really good one. And I think that the reason for making sure that that's expanded on is when it was talked about, it was a concept, and now you see it with dates. And so now you're seeing, like, here's where the heavy lifting is going to be. The motions will be brought forward to the board meeting. And I really hope that it gives, the confidence of those we serve, the fact that it is almost a more robust opportunity to do that deeper digging, so to speak. But I did just want to have that opportunity to have it explained, because now we see it in print. And rather than say, oh, they're doing less work, it's actually, here's the rationale, and here's where we're going to be leaning in a little harder in a different way.
We also, if I may, we wanted to make sure that while we are here for a limited term, we get those new rhythms in place to a degree where you feel confident that they can be continued, because there'll be new people sitting in these chairs relatively soon. So I appreciate hearing that you feel that it's robust. It will continue to get better. Our caution to the board was be patient, because doesn't come out fully baked. It requires some little bit of tweaks and so on. And of course, as soon as we put dates on a calendar, something's going to go sideways, because that's a date where some other event supersedes the committee meeting, and we'll have to work around that or reschedule, but we'll get there.
And I'll just do a supplemental is that I will also be interested, as it goes forward, to just ensure that the consent agenda is still a system that allows the work to be properly conveyed out to the public. Like, that would be an area that I would watch for, just to make sure that that's still achieving the objective of, explaining issues and topics.
Thank you so much, Trustee Simon. Before I look to Secretary Treasurer Cole to see if he has anything to add to that, I think one of the things that stood out for me, just in terms of, and maybe we didn't do justice to the discussion around it here, so I really appreciate you bringing this back up. When we had the committee structure the way that it stood, with more committees than what we're seeing here, and meeting at a higher, maybe a more frequent rate. We would have a couple of trustees who would be assigned to committees, possibly 3. Sometimes we would have people who weren't able to attend. More meetings were happening more frequently with maybe less attendance, which created a lot of conversation happening here at the board and maybe not us being able to move through the action items in the same way. Now the way that the education and operations committees are designed, you've got 4 trustees and 4 trustees assigned, and yet anyone can go to any of those committees and still be there to ask questions and hear and have the minutes and all of those things. We actually felt that it would be, when we cut down the frequency of the public and in-camera board meetings to once a month, it would allow for more trustees to attend the operations and education meetings where a lot of this conversation would happen, instead of having it happening at breakout smaller committees with less representation and more questions. So it seemed like a really nice way to bring it all together. So again, it's a work in progress, and I so appreciate you bringing it up for clarification. I apologize for not understanding the question in the first place. I'm like, didn't we pass a motion on this? But anyways, no, really appreciate it. Secretary Treasurer Cole, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope, other than I love the washing machine example. That was perfect.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Anything else that you wanted to add, Superintendent McKay?
Well, apart from the fact that I am the laundry boy at home, so other duties as assigned. No, I appreciate the comments, and I have a great deal of faith that this board will pick up and maximize the impact of this rhythm of a way to do things, so that you hold your staff accountable for operationalizing exactly the direction that your strategic plan says that you want to go.
Thank you. So trustees, just on the agenda item for the trustee liaisons, if I'm hearing correctly, we have the same trustee liaison assignments that we had for the 2024-2025 year, with the addition of trustee Hickson for the alternate to the CUPE liaison, and Vice Chair Kershaw is no longer part of the legacy grant, and trustee Kang will be joining that committee. And if we are all in agreement on that, there is a recommendation that the Board of Education of School District Number 73, Counts Thompson, approves the 2025-2026 trustee liaisons as presented. Do I have a mover? Moved by trustee Hickson, seconded by trustee Karpuk. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? All right, seeing no discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Moving on to item next, as trustee Sim pointed out, there is a schedule of meetings on page 24 of the agenda package. We are looking for, if there's no discussion on how it's been presented, a mover for the motion that the Board of Education of School District Number 73, Counts Thompson, approves the schedule of standing committee and board meetings for the 2025-2026 school year as presented. Moved by trustee McKelvey, seconded by trustee Karpuk. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? All right, seeing no discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. And opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. And back to page 25, I would be looking for a motion that the Board of Education of School District Number 73, Counts Thompson, approves the appointments and schedule of select committee meetings for the 2025-2026 school year as discussed. Moved by Vice Chair Kershaw, or sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just going to say I would make the motion as amended.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Moved by Vice Chair Kershaw, seconded by trustee Hickson. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. We have no business arising from public inquiries. Reports from committees and chair. The October Operations Committee updates.
I'm happy to, I think what I'll do, trustees and members of the community, is highlight one. We discussed several items, some of which were for information, and some resulted in some momentum going forward that has subsequently come and is coming to the board. I'm not going to go through all of them in detail. I will say that we provided at the Education Committee an update on the work and the relationship with the Indigenous Education Council and the meeting that I attended in September. There's been one since then. The one I want to highlight is the Indigenous education worker and the certified education assistant training. I think that is a significant step forward as we look to create our own solutions to staffing shortages. and make sure that as we create those solutions, we recognize that there are people in the more remote and rural parts of our school district who may be exceptionally good candidates to do some of that work. And we're going to roll out with a comprehensive support training and certification program for CEAs. And a lot of what comes from that will also be very applicable to our Indigenous education workers. So that's a conversation that happened at the Operations Committee, the Education Committee meeting, and received really strong support. And that caused staff to continue to work on developing what it will look like when it goes live. There are a number of other topics, but I think that is one that's worth shining the light on and you know, celebrating the fact that there's good work being done.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Trustees, the Education Committee update has been presented for information purposes. Is there any questions on that update as presented? All right, seeing none, the Operations Committee update, is there anything you wanted to add on that, Superintendent McKay? Secretary Treasurer.
Delegated. Yep, we had the first Operations Committee meeting on October 14th. Some say it was the best ever Operations Committee meeting we've ever had. That might have just been a rumor on the streets.
May I, point of personal privilege, please. This is a man who supported the New York Yankees and is still grieving that. I will admit, though, that the Operations Committee was remarkably well chaired and remarkably well supported. We aspire to rise to that level. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you to Trustee Opie for doing such a great job chairing it. Committee talked about a number of different items, like Mike said, in terms of highlights from education. We'll just focus on them from operations as well. A couple items that we started talking about was risk management matrix and the risk management framework. So as we mature as an organization, and we'll need to do a little bit deeper of a job on managing the risk and being able to identify that. The board did give direction to staff to come up with a framework before the end of December. So that's something, again, we'll, as Mike mentioned, we'll do the heavy lifting through the committee and bring that to the board for their review and consideration by the end of the calendar year. The other conversation that we had was around the long-range facilities plan and getting ourselves ready to look at the 5-year capital submission. That's due to the ministry at the end of June every year. So that's a process. Usually we start in spring once we have that enrollment or updates estimated in February. But something that we thought we wanted to take a little bit deeper of a dive and start earlier and start looking at some different projects that we could take into consideration or provide the ministry for their consideration around expansion projects and so forth. So still some work to be done there. We wanted to get the appetite of the board to see if that was something that we wanted to pursue and start to bring back other options to look at. So as we get near the springtime submission, that we've been able to really take a deep dive into that project and that process before we submit it to the ministry for consideration. So those were kind of a couple of the highlights from the Ops Committee meeting of October 14th.
Thank you so much. Any questions from trustees on that agenda item that's been presented for information purposes? All right, seeing none, thank you to you, Secretary Treasurer Call, and to you, Superintendent McKay, on that. In terms of the chair's report, I'll just give a brief update. The October Castanet column will be coming out. Canadian School Library Day is October the 27th. National Media Literacy Week is October 27th to 31st. That is this week. National Career Development Month is November. National Take Our Kids to Work Day is for grade 9 students, happening on November the 5th. Indigenous Veterans Day is November the 8th. Remembrance Day is November the 11th, with a lot of ceremonies taking place throughout the district on November 10th. Louis Riel Day is November the 16th, and the Board of Education and Band Chief and Council's annual dinner is scheduled to occur on November the 17th. We are just waiting to hear back from Chiefs and Council around that. That concludes the chair's report. Moving on to item next, trustee reports, inquiries, and good news. Trustee Karpuk, I will turn it over to you.
I just wanted to highlight a couple of regional high school sports competitions that happened this past month. One was the cross-country regional championships that happened in Penticton. And I know that we sent a busload of students from across the district to that high school meet. And I know that we had at least one of our athletes qualify for provincials, and I believe that they're planning on going. And then we also had a busload of students go to the regional high school swim meet this Sunday. And again, there were at least 5 different high schools that participated at that. And I know that the kids had some good performances. I don't know that we're sending anyone to provincials for that, just simply because it's a ways away for that one. But 2 really successful regional high school events that we did have good participation from our district and had some success at. So, and many, many thanks to all of the volunteers for that, because I know that with the swim meet, there's volunteers from across the region, and we very often, it's very heavy on volunteers and officials. And I know the same thing for cross country. We have people who spend a lot of time laying out courses. So many thanks to all the volunteers to make sure that those things happen.
Thank you very much, Trustee Carpuck. Any questions from trustees around this agenda item or the update from Trustee Carpuck? All right, seeing none. Yes, Trustee Hickson, sorry.
I don't know if I can add something just for Saturday. I think it's really important to add. Can I just pop in one trustee good news story?
So I will actually have to look to trustees whether or not we are okay with an amendment to the agenda that was passed earlier in the meeting.
It's just relating to,
Yes.
Kathleen, Trustee Carpuck, and I both attended Chris Rose's service on Saturday. Chris Rose was a longtime educator, principal, former school trustee, and he has done so much for this community. We have a school on the North Shore named in his honor, and I think it was an extremely important person for this entire district. So I just want to give him a very important shout out, and yeah, we had a very good time paying our respects then.
Thank you, Trustee Hickson. All right, seeing no other notes on that agenda item, we have no motions. Notice of meetings, we have a schedule of upcoming meetings. The Education Committee, November the 3rd. Operations Committee meeting, November 10th. The KTTA Labor Management Liaison meeting, November 13th. QB Management Labor Liaison meeting, November 20th. And the next regular public board meeting will occur Monday, November the 24th, here at the board office on 9th Avenue. I will seek a motion to adjourn, and thank you to Trustee Jules for joining us online this evening. Motion to adjourn, Vice Chair Kershaw, seconded by Trustee Hickson. Good night, everybody. Thank you.